But I want both of you to stay with us because let's also shift our focus to another strategy of Donald Trump and why he's suddenly talking about Cuba. So the US president has now hinted that Cuba could be the next focus after the Iran conflict, also saying that Washington wants to finish this one first. He made this claim in Havana and he said that, he also, beg your pardon, he said that Havana wants to make a deal, and he added that would be only a matter of time before the United States turns its attention to Cuba. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, Donald Trump now talking about Cuba, but before I get in your sense of what this statement means, let's listen into what Donald Trump said.
What's happening with Cuba is amazing, and we think that we want to finish this one first, but that will be just a question of time before you and a lot of unbelievable people are going to be going back to Cuba. Hopefully not to stay. We want you back, and we don't want to lose you. We don't want to make it so nice that they stay. But some people probably do want to stay. They love Cuba so much. I hear it all the time. That was another one that wasn't supposed to happen. I wanted to wait a couple of weeks, but we'll be together again soon, I suspect, celebrating what's going on in Cuba. They want to make a deal so badly, you have no idea.
Now let's understand what's happening, Lieutenant General Kulkarni. Here it is Donald Trump in the middle. It's just 7 days into the war with Iran where he says we can go on forever. And in the midst of all this, he's talking about Cuba. He's talking about how it's only a matter of time. Why from Venezuela to Iran and now Donald Trump dropping hints about Cuba? What should one make of this?
See, Cuba and the United States never had a good relationship. They were always strained relationship. We are aware of the 60s when there were Cuban crisis. We are also aware of the Monroe Doctrine and now the Donroe Doctrine, which insists that his backwaters, he wouldn't want anybody there. So when you see Venezuela, you know exactly which were the countries were wanting to show some kind of presence over there, which obviously was not for the liking of the United States. Similarly for Iran, when it comes to oil, we know why it is like that. And similarly now for Cuba, nobody, Americans are quite clear, and Mr. Trump per se, as they rightly, I know the world over, they can now call the Donroe Doctrine, insisting that his backwaters, nobody, no country would want, they would want any kind of an area of influence being, available to anybody in their backwaters. So in that context, you see how Venezuela has been cleared, how Iran is being tackled, and similarly, he hopes, is referring to talks with Havana, indicative that yes, there is something that America is very clear. It's now a situation he feels this is the right time to be able to convey to the world. It's not a multipolar world. It's a unipolar world. It's America. It's its apex. Everybody else must follow or, follow the diktat or be able to go along with America if that is what the American president wants at this point of time. So there is bound to be a bit of this thing. But yes, for him, it's make America great again. Hopefully, in that make America great again, everybody else also becomes great enough to be able to not, I would say, together. Because prosperity is something which must be for all of us and not just America alone. Because America's greatness means the world's greatness if America wishes to see it that way. But not just America being great again. The whole world must be good, peaceful. Then America's greatness counts a lot.
Okay. But Mr. Sajjanar, I also want to get in your views on Donald Trump's Cuba next kind of a hint. All of us know that, yes, the US and Cuba has been in the crosshairs of the United States because of its support to Maduro in the recent past. But how should the world look at these developments? Here you have the President of the United States who's so unpredictable. Sometimes you feel like he does whatever he wants to. And now when he talks about Cuba, how should world leaders react?
No, you're absolutely right. I think Cuba and the United States have been loggerheads with each other. Not only at this time, but since the time of the Che Guevara, since the time of, so many other, catastrophes and tragedies, since Fidel Castro was there, in the 50s and 60s, till right very recently, and also when Fidel Castro's brother took over. So, they have been at each other's throat for a long, long time. in my view, why he is bringing up the Cuba issue is basically to send out a message to the world and to his own people that the US policies are succeeding, that the United States is doing extremely well, and that it was successful as far as Venezuela is concerned. It is succeeding as far as Iran is concerned, and then it has other plans also going forward. So, it gels into what I was saying earlier, that he is, at least in the initial stages, because no one really expected that Iran would come up in such a big way in terms of hitting back at the United States, closing the Strait of Hormuz, which is a big, big shock as far as Mr. Trump is concerned. That is why you would remember that he had even offered that the US Navy will escort the ships and the tankers from the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz to the Gulf of Oman, etc. But as you can see, there are no takers, because, what he commits is only on paper. It's only in the written word. It cannot really be implemented as far as the ground is concerned. So his rhetoric on Cuba is just that we are doing well. You don't need to be afraid. The whole world is following what the United States dictates and demands. But of course, the reality is could be very different, because Cubans also have had a revolutionary government for the last more than 50, 60 years. And they are also hardened people. They have been fighting for their independence. So although we have seen that all the oil supplies from Venezuela to Cuba have been stopped, they are energy starved. But still, at least from the accounts that are available independently, they are not giving up. So we'll really have to wait and see as to where the Cuba thing goes. But definitely, as far as Iran is concerned, there is no clarity on when the United States might be able to declare victory and to say that the operations have come to a close, because we have achieved the objectives of regime change or missile control or terror proxies, banning of those entities.
Okay, Lieutenant General Kulkarni, you also wanted to make a point, because here, if Donald Trump is talking about Cuba next, he's dropping a hint about another operation in Cuba in the midst of the war with Iran. What can happen next? Do you think he can, while he says, yeah, we want to finish Iran, we want to finish our operation in Iran first, then he also says it's a war that can go on forever. And in the midst of all of this, he talks about Cuba next. Do you think he can open another front almost immediately, because it's Donald Trump? He can do what he likes.
No, I don't think he would want to open another front. I would go along with the ambassador, because after all, when you look back in terms of the crisis, like you mentioned about Fidel Castro and it's been on, and the Cubans don't have a good relationship. But at the present point of time, when the US Navy in terms of numbers is almost number 2 to China. So when it comes to numbers, when it comes to technology, the nuclear powered aircraft carriers, the number of aircraft carriers, the technology is concerned, America is miles and miles ahead. But in numbers, even in the sense of production is concerned, the Chinese are ahead of the American production of ships are concerned. So in that context, probably, America is conveying it to, in no uncertain terms, well, in certain oceans, it's we, and we alone who matter, and nobody dare enter our backwaters.
Okay.
So it is in that context, I think, and I'm sure, knowing America, much that there must be method to this madness also. There will be so many things happening at the same time. They wouldn't want to annoy the Cubans there, but would want to have an influence like they have succeeded in Venezuela.
Right.